Introducing CodeIgniter Wizard 2 for Mac. The next generation of the popular PHP code generation tool and web application maker now brings awesome features including user authentication and authorization, language localization, file uploads, data table export to CSV and Excel files, and more. For the purposes of this demo, let's start by revisiting our MySQL database called countries, cities, and people that contains 3 tables joined using foreign keys. Now I'll connect to this database from CodeIgniter Wizard, and then start creating a new web application project based on this DB schema. After I click Save and Reset Up Web App Config button, files for localization will be added to the project. Also, additional database tables for authentication and authorization will be created. Languages available here were previously defined in the Global Languages and Translation Templates section accessible from the toolbar. It allows adding or removing languages and defining global translations, which can be shared across all web application projects. You can find more information about localization and internationalization in another video or the documentation available both in the application help and the product website. Now we see additional tables here for users, groups, and permissions, because I have set up the auth framework. I'll configure the options for the people module, which will determine the behavior of the CRUD functionality, also the authorization setting. Speaking of authorization, there are 3 basic authorization options: everyone, anyone logged in, or users that belong to a special group in the database such as administrators. Now I'll enter some static options for the gender field after changing it into form input radio buttons. The city drop-down select Control, 3 rows below, pulls its options from the cities table. CodeIgniter Wizard automatically established the many cities to one-person relationship thanks to the foreign key defined for the city ID field in the people table on the database. Now I'll allow HTML in the notes field so that CodeIgniter Wizard will not strip HTML tags after form submissions. And next, I will turn the photo field into a fully functional file upload control that will thoroughly handle images and HTTP post requests from this form. As you can see, there are some other input types which can be used for having the end user enter numeric values using a slider control on the form. Finally, I will rename the label of the enabled checkbox as active, and then finish up by clicking Generate Code and Close. This action not only generated the People module, but also automatically generated other modules, namely countries and cities, because each associated table had foreign key relationships as you saw in the beginning of this video. I can still fine-tune the settings of each module by optimizing their options. For example, I will add inline form validation feedback, AJAX-based form submissions, ability to export data to CSV, Excel and PDF files, and authorization constraints so as to limit access to admins only. Now I'll publish all modules and the sidebar, and then move on to starting the PHP web server, which had previously been set up using Homebrew. This way I can run the command php spark serve to launch the published web application listening for connections at localhost:8080. Finally, it's time we visited the generated web application on this local host using a cross-platform web browser. When I click Countries to start with, I'm taken to a login page, since I had set the required access privilege to admins only. After entering the required credentials, I get back to the application dashboard page, this time in an admin session. I'll dismiss this welcome message, and now I can access the country list, which in this case is a dynamically displayed data table with pagination and lazy loading AJAX calls. Inline form validation feedback is another feature that comes with version 2.0 of CodeIgniter Wizard. Now let's display all the countries and export the list as an Excel file. Next, I'll browse the Cities module, which contains over 4,000 records. Again, with lazy loading in place, database call response time is fairly optimal. Now I'll look up the fictional Gotham City here and demonstrate deleting its record. Then I will add it again by creating a new record and manually entering the same information. This concludes my demo of the cities module. Finally, the people module, which has various field types, not just text, but also dates and decimal numbers, which have been automatically handled well by CodeIgniter Wizard by generating appropriate form field types. Now, how about a demo of how image uploading works in web apps created with CodeIgniter Wizard? We showed the same person data entry forms in our previous demos, but every time leaving out the photo field as a simple text input field. This time, I'll upload an actual photo in it and show you a couple of tricks CodeIgniter Wizard put in it. Now this image I'm about to upload has an extremely large resolution, which is 2560 by 1440 pixels. This is a typical example of an ordinary end user who knows little about image and file sizes and resolutions, ending up uploading a huge image on web forms. If you noticed how I configured the file upload in the options of the related field in CodeIgniter Wizard's module editor, the generated code is programmed to reduce the size of the image to 256 by 256 pixels after the form is submitted and the file uploading is complete. Over the course of preparing this demo, newer versions of both the open-source CodeIgniter framework and CodeIgniter Wizard itself has been released. I'll continue this demonstration using CodeIgniter Wizard 2.0.4, which will ask me to update the contacts web application to the current latest stable release of CodeIgniter. I'll click Yes, Upgrade and make it localizable, and then CodeIgniter Wizard will update this web application in a moment. Then I'll regenerate code for all modules, and then republish all modules so that the necessary code updates are propagated, and the latest version of the generated files are written in the published web folder. Now I'll move on to creating modules for basic user account management. For this, I'll first create a new module for user groups. CodeIgniter Wizard automatically detects the database table prefix and deducts human-friendly names from the table name as usual. But I'll append the user prefix to all names starting with group, to better emphasize the distinction, so that all related class names and objects instantiated from this class will be named user group. Who knows, in the future, we might add a separate groups module that has nothing to do with users groups. Anyway, now on to module options, to make sure everything's consistent with the previous module. Now I'll republish everything with the sidebar. And test this in the web browser. This will be short as there are only a simple input text field for the group name and a text area for its description. Now I'll create the users module that will allow admins to easily manage user records. The auth framework used for authentication and authorization allows extending its classes, and using this, CodeIgniter Wizard adds the ability to upload and store pictures in user records. Now that I've finished creating and publishing the user's module, we can now see it in action. I'll switch back to Firefox and test drive this new feature. Previously, when setting up authentication and authorization, we had already told CodeIgniter Wizard to create an admin user. Its record shows up here in the data table view. I'll go on and create a new user from scratch using the form created for us. Username and password fields have been autofilled here, but I'll enter a different username. Upload a picture. Set a new password. And check active. Finally, I'll skip permissions for now and add this user to the member group and remove her admin role. Now the new user is created, and I'll open it again in the form. Taking a close look, I think the form layout can be improved. The user photo had better appear in the beginning of the second column. To change this, I'll switch back to CodeIgniter Wizard and re-edit the module to move the uploaded picture to the top of the second column simply by setting its field's column number to 2. There is a slight improvement, but it could be better. How about moving status fields to the left column? I'll go back to the wizard and put the status field and every other form control beneath it at the bottom of the first column. In this case, decrementing their form column numbers by 1 is enough. I'll republish this and refresh the browser. I think the form looks much better now. Now I'll log out from my admin session. But before I log in with this new user's account, I'll lower the authorization level of the people module so as to allow non-admin members to access it. I had authorized only admins for the rest of the other modules, so we'll see how that works next. Now with Jane Doe's user account, when I click to access the cities, I get an alert telling me I don't have sufficient permissions to access that page. But we know that I have permission for people, so when I click it, I can access the people records. Finally, with this privilege, I'll edit the record of Dennis the Menace and verify it gets updated in the database. I'll set the city first. Then give him a higher rating score by adjusting the slider. And then we'll upload a photo. I click Save, and my changes are reflected in the list view with a nice thumbnail for the photo column. This concludes this end-to-end demo of CodeIgniter Wizard 2 for the Mac, to get you acquainted with some of the new features of CodeIgniter Wizard 2. If you liked this demonstration and would like to support us, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.